you give me a signal, like something like that. Oh, good evening. It's evening for us here in Florida, and I'm glad to be with you once again. Pertaining to Rose and I were talking about the different testimonies that the Lord had done so many miracles in my life. And we're talking about the power that God has over storms. A lot of people don't understand that. They think that it's man who is in control, and he's not. There are things that they claim that they use the weather to do things with the weather, but God has authority over the weather. It's not them. This climate control thing is almost insane because Jesus showed us clearly that he rebuked the winds and he rebuked the waters. He rebuked it all. And that tells us he has all power. Not a person that makes up storms and attacks this nation and uses these things. I don't care how they do it. If you had enough of God within you to pray, enough of faith, if you had, like he said, the faith of a mustard seed, you would see many mighty miracles. And I'll give you a couple of examples of the kind of faith that we should have. I can remember being out on the water, and I was told by my husband that being on the water is one of the worst places to be during a storm. And so a storm came up, and we usually outrun them and went back to shore. We usually didn't have a whole lot of trouble with that. And so this one storm came up so fast we could not run it. And what made it even worse is our anchor, when he went to go pull it up, it wrapped around the propeller because of all of the churning of the water. And you could see right next to the boat the powerful lightning strikes that were right next to us. And I'm laughing because of how God intervened and saved us. Now, when I'm faced with these situations, and unlike you'll be faced with situations like this, and you'll need to know what to do. If you walk and talk with God for the little things, and you allow him to work with the little things, he will most definitely be there with the big things. Because the little things are training. The little things teach you to believe him for the big things. And when that happened, my husband, who didn't believe like me, he would always get upset with me praying certain ways. And when he was struggling so hard to get that anchor rope untied from the propeller so that we could start on our way home out of that storm. And he knew it was very dangerous for us to be on the water like that. And suddenly, I threw up my hands and I started singing and praising the Lord, and I started speaking in tongues in the name of Jesus, and the glory of God just come down, and we were out of that storm like you would not believe. He was able to untangle it. God just delivered us almost instantly. And I was explaining to Rose how we have power and authority over the hurricanes and the tornadoes we see. And I used to look at the nation and I used to say, we don't need enemies on the outside, because those enemies on the outside can't do near the damage that the tornadoes and the hurricanes are all doing to the country. And I can remember one year that there was a hurricane that was going towards the Republican convention. It was heading straight for it. And I had no idea, and then suddenly when I saw it, I said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to go west. And it bobbled and turned direction. It was heading straight for the Republican convention. And when I commanded it, it turned. That's not the first hurricane that bobbled and turned. And I'm sure there are other people that pray, but it's the name of Jesus Christ that has the power. And this is where we have to and must believe that it is not us. It is not that Marian Litch prayed for it. You can run to me all day long and ask me, pray Mary, pray Mary. It's the power and the presence of his name. It's the faith that you have in the power and the presence of his Spirit. It is how you think and how you believe, not how I think and believe. I'm not important in your life. It's how you think between you and God. And if you believe God will rebuke that storm in his name, and that's what God's will is, it will happen. Because he tells you clearly in the word that if you pray without doubt, without unbelief, that you will have what you have asked for. And many things, I have many testimonies of what God did. And he didn't do it because I was any good. He didn't do it because I was so wonderful. And many times I was in complete rebellion. And that's the thing people have to understand. I was in so much pain from my life being so horrible, from all the misery and the terrible things that I had been through, the terrible beatings where, because I walked out on a porch at the age of 18 years old without permission, and how my dad took his fist and just beat me until I passed out. And I remember that my body went numb and I didn't feel the hit. It felt like he just pushed on it. I didn't feel the beating. Nothing is as bad as verbal abuse. When my dad would beat me, at least it would be over. But if you beat me with your tongue, that lashing of your tongue would be a whipping that would come over and over and over and never stop. Never stop. Never have time for you to be able to recuperate from the last wounds. And yet there you are again getting cursed at. There you are again getting swore at. But at least him, there was long intervals and reasons that he had his rage, because that was what his problem. He would just fly off the handle and go into a rage. And we were talking about, pertaining to Rose and I were talking about the way we were raised and the different things that had happened. And God delivered me out of all of that. I have no complaints with God. Every single thing I have ever been through, God delivered me. The way Paul the Apostle said, God delivers us out of them all. We have many trials, many tribulations. I mean, I could tell you testimonies of how he raised the dead. He took them from their deathbed, in their lives passing to and fro, and he took them from there. The one day that we moved to Alabama, we didn't know we were on Tornado Alley. We had no idea that on the computer a tornado would be coming, straight line winds of 60 miles an hour. We had no idea what that meant. And so it would be on the local news constantly watching all of these tornadoes. And they had said positively there was coming one straight for our house, straight for where we lived. And I got very angry. I really did. I got angry. I didn't go, oh, I got angry. And I took a styrofoam cup and I laid it on a porch and I slammed it down. And I looked up towards God and I said, you did not call me for my new home to be destroyed. You didn't call me here that this could happen to me. So I am telling you in the name of Jesus Christ, and I wasn't talking to God. I was talking to someone else, which I never mentioned. I don't want to see a blade of grass out of place. I don't want to see a tree touched. There is no way anybody is going to touch my home. Nothing, no wind, nothing. And I walked back into the house and you could hear the roar of the wind coming. And my husband decided the best thing to do was get behind the refrigerator. So as he was pulling it out, I threw my hands up in the air and I started singing, there is power power, wonder-working power in the blood. And I started singing like that, and the power of God come down on me, and the tornado went over us. And when it went over us, I saw it was going to kill people, and I began to pray for them. And it went across the lake, and it killed people and wiped out the trailers over there. And what I'm saying to you is this: if you believe God and what he said, let your faith rise up. Let your faith do what it's supposed to do. Bring glory to him. In that moment, Satan had no power to destroy my home with the wind and the rain. He has no power today to do that to you. If you had enough faith, you could stand there in the name of Jesus and rebuke the winds the way Jesus did. That's not the only one I had. I remember we had, when I lived in Pennsylvania, we had a pasture that was flat land, and then we lived on a hillside. And we had a colicky horse, and she was so sick. We were walking her. We didn't have the radio on, the TV. We had no idea. During those years, we had no TV. I didn't believe in it. And so, not that I'm saying everybody's supposed to live without a TV, but I didn't need it. We worked so hard in the 15 acres that we had that we did not have a TV. We didn't have time for it. So I remember what happened there was, as we're walking back and forth in this barn and the doors were wide open, suddenly you heard this roar. And in this roar, you looked across the pasture, there was a creek, and you could see my brother's trailer, he was living on my property. And every tree touched and bounced like that in a few seconds. That's how powerful the storm was. And I looked at the trailer and I couldn't believe it was still standing. Not a part of it was ripped off. I was shocked. And all of this, you have to understand, happened in seconds. By the time you could think to go against that cement wall and hide from the wind, it was already too late. It was gone. And as I looked out across the pasture, we had this huge tree. And it had a 9-foot splinter where the wind just busted it off. And I had to go. We didn't have a phone, so I had to go and call the vet. I had to call a neighbor. And as I walked down our driveway, which was a very long driveway, and every tree that was near our driveway was ripped out by the roots. As I walked by, and I thought, how am I going to get the car out of this? How am I going to get there? And at that exact moment, this big, strong, powerful man pulled up, got out of the car and said, "Oh, you need help." And he took those trees and threw it this way and threw it that way. I know it had to be an angel. What man could take a tree and just throw it? So what happened was I went on to the top of the hill, called my neighbor, and asked him to send the vet. And he said, I said, "I don't know if you could get through." And he said, "You're crazy. I only live across the highway from you, and you're crazy." And he found out when he came that these huge spruce trees just right across from him, while the sun was shining, had been all ripped apart. He apologized to me for calling me crazy because we had endured in our first tornado. I'm going to have to go and finish this testimony on my next video.